Hello viewers. Lately I've been doing a lot of Star Citizen videos, and as cool as the game is, sometimes you just decide you want to play something a little bit more stable. I've been taking a look at Elite Dangerous and trying to figure out how to play it. It's been forever since I've gotten into it, so I thought I'd do up a little video on an overview of the differences between Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen. Currently I'm sitting in my home station. I'm sitting in what would be a starter ship, although I've heavily upgraded this, so it's worth approximately 20 times the value of the ship hull. And I'll give you a little bit of a tour around the ship and the facilities and stuff like that. Now, the first thing about Elite Dangerous is that there is no getting out of your pilot seat and walking around inside your ship. There is a module called Odyssey that will let you walk around in stations, will let you walk around on planets, but when you leave the ship, you basically just beam out of the pilot seat and end up standing underneath it. The ship systems, I'm using head tracking. They're considerably different than Star Citizen in that every ship has the same interface layout. For instance, on the left side, you've got that little glowing green orb is the space station that I'm in. In the center, you would normally have your radar, like a 3D radar, which I'll show you in the flight system. And then on the right-hand side of that, you've got the display of your ship with the shield, and underneath that, in orange, the hull health. You've got your power levels for engine, systems, and weapons. Systems being shields and stuff like that. And of course you can step through and you can modify those. And then next to that is your fuel indicator, whether you're mass locked, which means you can't go into your faster than light drive, whether your landing gear is down, whether your cargo scoop is down. On the right hand side here, there's a display of internal ship systems, and this allows you to look at each of the modules that are mounted on the ship. You can set priorities for them, so that if you don't have enough power to run every system in the ship, you can have some of them shut down sooner and keep other ones online. For instance, you might decide to shut off the cargo hatch, or perhaps you would shut down the frame shift drive, which is the FTL drive. You can do fire groups in here. So you can have your various weapons set to different groups. This only has 2 weapons, so I can set those to to fire group 1. And then if I want to use these collector limpets, I can set those to fire group 2. And the 1 and 2 that I'm toggling through is whether you want it to be button 1 on your controller or button 2 on your controller. So when I go into fire group B, button 2 will actually activate these collector limpets. There's also stuff like chaff, which you can also set up in your fire groups, your scanners, things like that. These windows keep closing because I've got them set to open and close based on looking in this direction. You've also got your ship systems. You can shut it down and reboot it. You can set turret modes. You can set the silent running, which essentially shuts down the shield and shuts down the thermal vents and will cause it to overload or overheat eventually. But it also makes your ship much harder to detect if you're smuggling and you don't want to get scanned by law enforcement. And then there's stuff like the landing gear and the cargo scoop, which you can also operate through the screen. This shows your cargo hold. This particular ship only has 8 units of cargo. Call them cubic meters, call them whatever you want. If you've got refinery modules in here for mining, those would show up here. These are separate from cargo, and it's materials you can collect for crafting stuff. The crafting could be stuff like ammunition, ballistic ammo, or limpets for collecting mining materials, things like that, things of that nature. And there's also data that you can collect, which will be used also in crafting. And then finally we have the status, which is what your standing is with the various factions in the game, the three major empires, the various sessions that you've done, and then how much cash you've got, things like that. And then on the other side, you've got your external panel, which is stuff like the navigation screens, whether you've got any missions available, whether you've got any contracts that you're currently working on, or contacts, sorry. And that's stuff like spaceships, stations, planets, that sort of thing. And by selecting one of these, you can then do like communications with it, or target it, or do scans on it, things like that. And then finally in the center here we've got starport services and launch, and we'll do the services first. Now in Star Citizen you have to get off your ship and walk around the cities and find all this stuff through there. There's some of it that's available through your Moby Glass, and in this it's all available through this one screen on the station. So you've got your missions, which are very similar to the missions that you'd find in Star Citizen, possibly a wider variety of them. The types of missions are combat transportation, which is cargo hauling, freelance, which is often combat, can be other stuff though, support, which is rescue people, take medicines, things like that, operations, which are infiltration, combat missions, destroy turrets, scan emplacements, stuff like that. And we'll go back. There's also the commodities market, which is exactly the same as trading in Star Citizen, buy low, sell high. And as you go to various locations, it will tell you where the commodities are consumed, whether it's a good price, a bad price, whatever. So for instance, if we look at this agronomic treatment, you can see that I can buy them for $5.50, and that if I take it to galactic average is $5.50. The current buy price here is $25.56, and on the right hand side it shows other stations that I've been to and what the prices are for the same thing. So if I jumped it over to that Sakpata at only just under 9 light years, I could sell each unit for 3,200 credits and make a total of about 550 credits of profit. So this is actually much easier to use for trade routes than what you get with Star Citizen. And when you look at these destinations on the right hand side, you'll also see that some of them have a little blue icon next to it, like for instance, Dawes Manufacturing. That little thing to the right of it that looks like a little blue ship landed means that it's on a planet, whereas the ones without that means that it's a station that's in orbit. And of course you've got your sell menu, which is anything that you have actually on your ship. In this case I have nothing loaded onto the ship. The comparison menu. So there is a fair number of tools that are available for that kind of stuff. So that's commodity trading. We have the Shipyard. This allows you to buy and sell new ships or manage the ships that you have. One interesting feature about this is that if you have ships that are somewhere else in the galaxy, you don't have to necessarily fly there to pick them up. You can pay a fee and wait for a specific amount of time, and somebody will ferry them over for you. This is an NPC service. Let me go in here and see if I have any ships elsewhere in the galaxy. Most of these are probably here because this is my home base. And I guess I don't have any other ones that are out in the universe. It shows you not really much information about the ship. Basically just a pretty picture of it, and maybe a little bit of information about it, whether it's multi-crew, whether it can hold a fighter bay, stuff like that. And the cost, well, the cost won't be shown in here. For that you would have to go to the purchase ships, and then you can start looking at the cost of these things. So this is the basic starter ship. It sells for about 31,000 credits. Mine, I've got probably about 750,000 credits into it with upgrades and stuff like that. So you can make them very expensive. It can't handle a fighter bay, can't handle multi-crew, uses small landing pads, and you can basically step through these things and you can look at the various capabilities. One site that I would really recommend is the Elite Dangerous Wiki, because that will show you maximum cargo capacity, whether they can take multi-crew, like if they've got a second seat that you can have somebody come with you. This, for instance, is one of the smallest ships that can do multi-crew, and it's a little, essentially, cargo shuttle. It's got 2 seats in that, and depending on how you fit the ship, you can actually have your co-pilot operate guns or missile launchers while you're doing the flying, or in some instances, like the keelback here, you can actually have your ship fitted with a fighter bay, so your other person that's in the ship with you can then deploy in this little fighter and go fly around and do combat, and then come back and dock with the larger ship. And this is not a particularly large ship, this keelback. This would be probably on par with, I guess, maybe a MSR from Star Citizen in terms of size. So it doesn't take a particularly big ship to use these little fighters. And the fighters are tiny. They're probably smaller than than something like the M50s, or like the small ships in Star Citizen. In fact, they'd probably be considerably smaller than something like a Merlin or Archimedes or something like that. And of course, the bigger ships that you get, the more expensive they get, up until you get into the hundreds of millions. Not every station carries every ship. Not every ship is suited for every purpose. This is primarily a passenger ship. It doesn't handle particularly well. There's ships that are sort of focused on missile combat, and things like that. Okay, so that's the Shipyard. Just a quick look at it. It's, I guess, a little nicer than the ship terminals you get in Star Citizen, because at least it has finished images of the ships, but not a huge amount of detail on them. Related to ships, there's the outfitting screen, and when you go into this, it allows you to change the various hard points that you have mounted on your ship. In this case, I've got a set of cannons on there, and each of the weapons that you mount can be either fixed or gimbaled or a turret. And fixed is exactly what it sounds like. It's locked down, does more damage than a gimbal. A gimbal has a small tracking amount, does a little bit less than fixed. And then, of course, the turrets are, they can track basically anywhere in their line of sight, but they do less damage than either of the other two options. Turrets are the only ones that can be operated by someone in an alternate seat, though. There's also stuff like utility mounts. In this case, I've only got 2 utility mounts. One of them is empty that I haven't used. The other one is a chaff launcher. So, if you got missiles coming at you, there's stuff like, what are my options here? Heat sink launchers, if your vehicle starts to heat up too much, shield boosters, pulse wave analyzers, point defense, which are also anti-missile. However, one of the things you have to concern yourself with is anytime you start looking at these modules, you have a certain limit to the power plant on your ship. In this case, in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, it's 9.6 megawatts. And when everything is deployed and combat ready, I'm running at 9.14. So I can't afford to put something on that's going to seriously get past the that level. Now, if I wanted to mount a point defense turret, that would still put me up at 9.35, which is okay. So for 18,000, I can go ahead and buy one of these, and I can mount it. And that gives me missile defense. And then there's other classifications. There's the internal loadout, what kind of thrusters you have, what kind of hull you have. The better you put, the more hit points you get, but you also tend to gain weight with that. And with weight comes a decreased jump range. In the bottom center, you see the jump range. Maximum is 25.76. And the minimum would be 21.3 when the ship is fully loaded, and right now it's at 24.96. So, like I could lighten the ship up a little bit to increase the jump range, but loading stuff like cargo does tend to cut it down, and sometimes heavier modules will decrease your jump range. So you have a trade-off of I'm going to use a lighter module that puts out maybe less power or is slightly less efficient or something like that to save weight and to increase my jump range. And there's trade-offs for all of the various modules that you have in here. And of course it's got a lot of depth to the ships that currently is not really in Star Citizen. This is what they're trying to do with their physicalized components, but for the most part right now, components in Star Citizen, they don't have weight, they don't have hit points, they don't have any details like that. Optional internals is whether you want stuff like cargo racks or Olympic collectors or fuel scoop, which allows you to refuel from stars, things like that. And of course, if you've got a vehicle bay mounted on the ship, then you'd have it show up in here, and you can choose the vehicle that you want to have loaded into it. So anyways, that's a quick thing about ship fitting. Not really a huge amount of detail. And let's see, what else do we have here? Ship services. Whoops. There's stuff like paint jobs you can purchase in the game. Those are done with what they call arcs, which is a thing that you pay real money for. And you can purchase these off of the Frontier website, or sometimes they'll give away these arcs in the game for doing things. So essentially, I've got 4,600. I could go in and I could purchase, let's say, ship kits. I have no spoiler on this. If I wanted to purchase a 16 item pack for this ship, I could put a spoiler onto it. It'd look all racy. I could put some fins on it. I could put these fins on it. So you can kind of customize out your ship. And yeah, we'll go back from there and we'll look at a few other things. Various packs that are available. You can get decals, ID packs, things like that. Let's say that you want to customize it with something like this, or a nameplate or whatever, and they all have a specific cost to them. So that's where they try to make their money in microtransactions. Just like CIG, they are selling stuff through the website to customize your ships in terms of like the looks, names, cockpit accessories, bobbleheads, lights, that kind of stuff. And you don't have to buy them. There is no subscription to the game. Once you've bought it, you own the game. You can play it online as much as you want. And so that's what they have in this for their microtransactions. Oops. Then you've got your advanced maintenance, which is buy fuel, buy missiles, buy ammunition if necessary. Engineering is if you have modifications and you have materials for it, you can basically take a particular component and you can improve it beyond its normal specs. So you can make a jump drive jump longer range, but it may be weaker or it may consume more power or things like that. You can also do exploration by essentially going into solar systems and scanning them, scanning planets, stuff like that. And if you're at least 20 light years away from where you scan this stuff, it has value. The further away it was when you scanned it, the more value it has. So for instance, these ones I can't sell because they're too close to this system, so they don't really have any value. If I wanted to sell the entire page, it would be worth 122,000 credits. So even if you're not hauling cargo or doing anything like that, you can actually make money just by cruising around the galaxy and just scanning stuff and looking at the scenery, things like that. Now, one thing of note is that if your ship is destroyed, any data that was in your computer of all the scanning and exploration you've done, that's lost. There is still a insurance on your ship, so you pay a percentage of what the ship's value is if you're destroyed, and you also lose any cargo that you happen to be carrying on it. So if it was a transport mission or something like that, you would fail the mission because those are unique cargo. You can't just go out and buy a replacement. It's like someone's delivering a coffee cup with a picture on it through Amazon or something like that. You break the mug, you can't just go to your local store and buy another one because it's not the same. Your contacts are various people that you might want to deal with in terms of like search and rescue, go recover escape pods from wreck sites. Material traders are to purchase things that you would use for engineering, or to trade things that you would use for engineering, for upgrades, stuff like that. And maybe you've been collecting one of a particular type of item. A lot of these atypical wake echoes. So you can trade them for something else, and he'll give you a price, like an exchange rate. You can set how many you want. For every 2 that you give him, you'll receive 9 of the new one. And you can basically take stuff that you have a lot of and trade it for stuff that you're not able to find, and use that stuff to upgrade your ship, or maybe to complete missions, do things like that. So we'll cancel out of that. And then they have contract bonds. Those are people that pay you for going out and destroying pirates, that kind of stuff. So that's your contacts in the game, your crew lounge. You can actually hire NPC crew in the game, and they'll take a percentage of all of your earnings. And typically, what they do is they fly the fighter ships. If you have fighters on your craft that are deployable, you can tell them to deploy, and they'll fly around and they'll shoot at your targets, or they'll follow your orders, things like that. They can't run turrets. They can't do anything useful in your ship, but they are fighter pilots for the deployable fighters. Or you can jump into the deployable fighter yourself, and they will fly the ship with some level of competence depending on how much you paid for them. And the fee here is basically a signing bonus, and then they take a percentage of your profits beyond that. So if you look at this person, they've got a hiring cost of $150,000, and they take 12% of all my earnings. So the less competent people, they take a smaller percentage. If they survive, the less competent can then become more competent and rank up from harmless to mostly harmless to novice, competent, and finally expert. But you have to keep them from getting killed. And the advantage of that is that while they get better, their profit share doesn't increase, and the hiring cost is what you paid initially. Now you can hire these guys, but if you don't do a lot of missions with fighters, then you're paying a percentage even if they're not on the ship. They could be sitting on a station watching videos and hanging out at the bar, but they still get a percentage of your earnings. You can fire them, but at that point you no longer have access to them. You can't hire them back, and you would basically have to hire somebody new, which involves a new hiring bonus, as well as the percentage that you're going to pay them. So that's how crew works. If we go to missions, we've also got passenger missions. You can buy passenger compartments for most ships instead of cargo compartments, and passengers are automatically picked up in various stations. They have different stats, like, you know, they may not want to be scanned by the authorities. They may not want to be in combat, so they freak out if you get shot at or if you shoot at another ship, things like that. So if we go in here to personal transport, it brings up this, and this guy is going to pay 50 million credits. He wants to visit the Eye of Fire, but I don't have the reputation to take him. This guy will pay 1.5 million credits. Oh, no, I guess that's locked as well. Maybe I don't have reputation enough. Okay, so this one is not locked. And it seems that he needs a minimum economy class cabin, which I don't have mounted on the ship, so I couldn't accept this mission to begin with. And he'll give me 907,000 credits. He just basically wants to cruise around, and he wants to go... it's going to be a number of stops for this kind of money. So, you know, like, you have to decide whether or not you're willing to travel all over the galaxy trying to keep this guy happy for 900,000 credits. But it's another alternative to running cargo missions. Okay, so that's the various mission types in the game. Oh, there's one final one I was going to show, and that's the missions. That's the community goals, and that's basically everybody in the server works on these things, and it will make certain things available. In this case, it'll make the AX missile rack buyable to, I believe it's everyone that contributed in the goal. So what they need to do is they need to take this cargo shown in the top here to this particular station in this particular system, and you can sign up for it, and then as you deliver cargo to that station, you can then hopefully get access to this objective. And out of the community goal, they've got 11 million of them. I'm not exactly sure how many they're after in the in total. Progress. Yes. Oh, that would be this progress bar here. So they're probably about 90% of the way through that mission. They have 5 weeks left in order to complete it. So it's just another thing that you can do to earn stuff in the game that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily be able to get. Okay, so I think we've done maybe enough of that. It's time to do a short little flight on the ship. We'll do a jump to another star system here, and I'll show you what's involved in that. So we need to go to the galaxy map. So I scroll over to the galaxy map, select that, it opens it up. I can select one of the systems on here. It'll give me information about it. It's a short jump. I'm not going there for any particular reason. I'm also not giving keyboard shortcuts or anything like that for anything in the settings here. Frankly, I'm not entirely sure what the stock keyboard commands or even controller commands are, and this is more of an overview just to show you a little bit about what the game is. I may do videos like a how-to on like what controls to actually use and things like that, but that goes outside of the scope of this video. So we're done with the starport services. We've set a destination. We now want to launch the ship. So I'll select that. It'll pull my landing pad out of the hangar. It puts it into the docking bay of the station. And just above the radar thing, it's giving me my time limit to get out of the station. In this case, I have just under 5 minutes to leave. So we'll strafe upward. Roll the ship a little bit. Now on one side of the door is a green light and on the other side is a red light. And the opposite side, like when you're coming in, it's opposite. What's red for me is green for them. That avoids ship collisions because you will get a fine if you collide with another ship. So we fly outside the station. And you don't have to worry about trying to match rotation, although when you get outside, you can see that the star field is kind of spinning. And I'm going to move away from the station a little bit. My landing gear is up. Now you see the way that opening is spinning? You have to actually match your rotation when you go back in. There is a docking computer that you can put on your ship, but that will take a space that would normally be used by something else, something you might want to use more than a docking computer. So I'll throttle up. In the center of the lower HUD, you've got the radar. That shows you any ships or stations around you. It shows you your current heat level is 30%, current speed is 114, and then just to the left of that is my essentially what they call a compass. There's a little dot with a circle in it, a hollow dot, and that means that it's behind me, my currently locked destination. And for some reason the starport is what's currently my destination. So I have to find my marked destination on the in space, or I guess I could go to the nav panel. And I'll scroll down here. These are sorted in order of range. Different star systems are at the bottom. And the one I've set the course to is right down at the bottom there, so that's the furthest one away. So I'll lock that. Unlock destination.
You are clear to plot your own course. We look forward to your return, Commander.
Okay, now it's set my jump marker to that as opposed to the station. And I line up on it. It's on the far side of the station. Now, there's two flight modes that you can use in the game. There's what's called supercruise, which is your faster than light drive, and I'll go into that now. It's also referred to as the low wake. And now my craft, if you look at the speed display on the right hand side of the radar, it's accelerating millions of meters, or megameters are thousands of kilometers per second, and eventually it will get to where it starts reading in a point C, which is a percentage of light speed. And these little vertical lines that you see strafing past on the indicator are just to give you an impression of speed. Now I'm at a tenth of light speed, quarter of light speed, and you'll keep accelerating until you hit your maximum speed, which I think is about 1,000 times light speed. Now, assuming you're doing a jump to another star system, you can't get there at these kind of speeds. Even though I'm accelerating past 4 times light speed, it's still way too far to be able to get to the other station, other system rather, which is 23 light years away. So for that, I'll line up on the marker and I engage the system jump, and that has to charge up. And when it's fully charged, it's going to automatically jump to the next system. And it drops me close to the primary star and directly facing it. You do have to be careful that you turn away from it instead of flying into it. And this ship has a fuel scoop on it, so I'm actually able to refuel just by staying near the star, but I have to watch the heat so that it doesn't get too hot and start to damage my ship. And this allows me basically unlimited jump range. I could travel all the way across the galaxy if I needed to. And now you can see my fuel gauge on the left of the power settings. On the right of the power settings is almost topped up. And I'm climbing back up past light speed. And at this point I can set a destination inside of the system here. We scroll up to the top for the closest stuff. There's a nav beacon, there's orbital stations. So we'll go to Carlisle Orbital. I'll lock that for the course. Nope, that did not take. Lock destination. So now it changes my target to the space station. And it shows that it's directly behind me because it's centered in the little radar to the right of the space station icon. And it's a hollow circle as opposed to a solid one. If it's a solid circle, it means that it's directly in front of me. So as I start to come around, when it reaches the edge of the radar, the compass, it goes solid, and then it shows that it's lining up in front of me. The distance to it is just over 650 light seconds, and 30 seconds is my ETA to get there, 28 seconds. What you have to do is, as you get close, you need to throttle down so that ETA doesn't go below about 7 seconds. I'll do this a little conservative. I'll start to throttle down when it gets to about 9 seconds. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you'll actually overshoot the station, and you won't be able to jump out of your frameshift drive fast enough. Okay, so we're at 10 seconds, 13. I can throttle up a little bit to reduce that. And typically you want to be in the blue section of the little marker next to the speed indicator. And I'm going to come out in the same orientation to the station as what's shown on the little targeting display. And I know from being at these stations before that the entry port is going to be on the very tip of the end with the large ring. So I'm going to have to fly around part of the station in order to get there. Now what's happening here is you can see my speed is dropping, so that's why my 9-second ETA is not decreasing, because it's actually slowing down the closer we get to it. 20,000 kilometers here. And it keeps backing off the speed to try to keep that 9-second ETA and to put me at a low enough speed to actually drop out of frameshift drive when I'm close enough to be able to fly under normal speeds to get to the station. And you need to be under 1,000 kilometers for that, or 1 mm, or megameter as they call them. And now I get a message that I can disengage. And I'm fairly close to the station. It'll always drop you out much closer than it says. You know, it said I was going to be 600 kilometers out, but it's never actually that far. Now I'll throttle down here. In order to get landing permission, you need to be within 7 kilometers of a station. So it should not give me landing permission at this distance. But let's find out if it does. So I scroll over to contacts. Carlisle Orbital is selected.
Authorization cleared. Proceed to landing pad 01.
Okay, I guess I am close enough. So now I simply have to line up with the entry to the docking bay. I'm strafing down right now. Speed's 138 meters a second. And head tracking is extremely nice to fly with. The game also supports virtual reality pretty well. Although not in the new Odyssey add-on, the one that gives you on-foot missions. Okay, that should be pretty well lined up. Now I want to go in on the green side of the what they refer to as the mail slot. That's the local authorities scanning me for contraband. Make sure I'm not trying to smuggle anything into their station. I'm using roll to keep myself aligned with the port, and I'm looking for hangar or pad 8, which I suspect is going to be close to the entrance. Oh, there we are. Proceed to pad 1. If you land on the wrong pad, bad things happen. Pad 01. And you also have to land with the correct orientation. So I'm actually facing backwards for what I need to be in order to land on this pad. One interesting thing about this game is when you put your landing gear down, there's a speed limiter that engages. And it also, you can have it set up so that it will shift some of your controls. If the landing gear down, controls will do actually other things than they would with the landing gear up, and that allows you to set your thrusters for strafing and things like that differently than you would normally use for flight. Once you get over the pad, you need to get down to a specific altitude, and then it shows your landing assist indicator. Your ship needs to be level over that, and it needs to be lined up in both of those axes. And once the marker turns blue, that means that you can successfully land just by strafing down. And that's it. We're down on the surface. Now, the one final thing I'm going to show you is how to do combat with this. And perhaps I should have done that earlier. But we're going to now launch from the station. It's going to turn my ship around automatically to make sure that I'm facing the docking port. It's going to give me the same 5 minutes to get out of the station. Okay, we're going to set for the navigation point. And that's always near the star, or the nav beacon rather. Okay, and that's using my compass. I can get a line to that. I'll put more power to engines to get a little bit more speed out of this thing to get clear of the station. And at my current speed, it would take 109 days to get there. I don't think we got that kind of time in this video. I'm not mass locked anymore, so I can then start to charge the drive. Equalize out the power settings, since I don't necessarily need the speed right now. And your flight is completely interactable. You can pitch, roll, do whatever you want to while you're traveling. It's not like Star Citizen in terms of just being on rails. .3 light seconds, and it'll start to convert to megameters. Oh, I am wrong. Maybe it's 0.1. And once again, megameters are thousands of kilometers, so we're just dropping below 7,000. And at 1, I can drop out into normal space. Now, normally you would come to nav beacons to scan ships and see whether or not they're wanted. Oh, and on the left-hand side, it shows that he's harmless, he's clean, he has no bounty on him, and he's in a group of 3 ships. So if you start shooting at somebody that's in a group of ships, you can kind of expect their buddies are going to come after you. Ships will show trails, engine trails that you can use to find where they are, or you can use the radar. And I should probably set my range in a little bit. So we got a bunch of ships over here. He's an Alliance Enforcer. He's clean, so has no record. Now the other thing that you can do is you can watch for weapon fire, which usually is a good sign that the authorities are attacking somebody. What's this white marker over here? Oh, that's the nav beacon. Alright, he's got no bounty on him. The ones that show with a square marker mean that they don't have their turrets out. The ones with a triangular marker do have their turrets out. No bounty on him, and I don't particularly want to get a fine, so I'm not going to start looking for trouble unless I have to. And the ones that are jumping around like that are at your maximum scan range. So I can see there's a ship moving around out there, sort of right in the center of my HUD. But I don't exactly know what it is at this point. I'm full power to engines. I'm only moving at 300 meters a second. And that charge means that he's getting ready to jump out. I'll see if I can get a view of what that looks like. And he'll start to accelerate and then pop, he's gone. And if you've got a scanner, you can then target and scan the wake of him, and you can sometimes get useful data from that. Where he was going, or specific information about his ship, things like that. And it looks like most of them have jumped out. Now, in order to actually use your weapons, you have to deploy the hard points for them. These are gimbaled, so they'll try to lock onto whatever target I've got selected. And cannons, of course, fire slowly, and then they're going to have to reload. So right now I'm down 4 shots. I only have a specific number of shots in it. You can set the game to automatically deploy your weapons when you pull the trigger, but I don't recommend doing that, because if you fire your guns inside of a station, you are in all kinds of trouble. Okay, not a lot of wanted... oh, there is something that looks... encouraging. We'll boost over and we'll find out what kind of ship they're firing on and what did this poor guy do. Alright, so he is definitely going to be wanted. Deploy our weapons. He's also far more than I would ever try to take on with this ship. So if he takes an interest in me, I'm kind of screwed. And he's trying to run for it. Okay, now because I put a couple of shots into the guy, I got the bounty for it essentially, so 500 credit or 500,000 credits. So it can be worth your while, even if you have a crappy little ship, to just go in there and put a few shots into it, and then you can say to him, "Hey, I helped the law, so I deserve a piece of that." And then there's the various materials that are found in the wreckage, which you can pick up and you can use for upgrading. I'm not going to bother doing that, I don't think. And they also show up on your marker. And this team's not hanging around. I should probably put my guns away before I do something stupid with them. Okay, so not much of a combat tutorial, but it shows you sort of what's involved. You fly around, you scan people looking for the ones with bounties on them, and then you shoot at them. If you can put a few shots into them and somebody else destroys them, you'll still get paid the bounty on them. And now if I was to go in and look at payouts, there should be an entry for that. So I have to actually go back and redeem these vouchers, and I'm going to see Capsule Corp Interstellar. That would most likely be in this system, so maybe I'll go and I'll land at Carlisle Orbital again. And I'll see whether or not I can cash that in. So we're locked in. We line it up on the radar. Engage the frame shift drive. And your power settings don't make a difference for your frame shift drive. All that makes a difference is the level of frame shift drive that you've got in terms of how fast it'll accelerate. Actually, I'm not even positive that's true. It'll make a difference for how much energy it consumes. And possibly its hit points. And primarily its jump range, like when you jump to another star system. $10,000 kilometers. Didn't take my docking request.
Okay, Commander, land on pad 4-4.
And you get 10 minutes to get in, but only 5 minutes to get out. They don't like you doing over 100 meters a second inside. Four. Now there is no way to do the uncoupled landings that I like to do in Star Citizen. So that's a little unfortunate. Hammer down.
Landing
And we'll go to Starport Services. Okay. Okay, so this is the ship, that single ship that I shot, and then there's a couple of other ones here. So I get 800,000 credits, 770 of those are from that one ship, just for assisting with it. So that's pretty good pay, all things considered. You can pay fines here if you have any. If you've got a bounty on you, you can also turn yourself in, and you get sent to a prison system, and then you're going to have to fly possibly quite a ways. Okay, so that was just a basic overview of what Star Citizen is without getting into the ground rovers and without getting into the FPS missions, which are ground rovers are available in the basic game. FPS missions, you need the Elite Dangerous Odyssey DLC. And I haven't picked that up yet, so I'm definitely no expert on that. I can't say how it compares to Star Citizen, but the videos I've seen, it appears to have somewhat better frame rates. Not quite as nice a graphics, but that'll be something for a future video. Anyways, thanks for joining me, and this gives you a little bit of an idea on what Elite Dangerous is about, and whether or not you'd want to pick it up for an alternative to Star Citizen when you're awaiting patches and things like that. Currently, until January 5, it's on sale on Steam for 10 Canadian dollars. I'm not sure what that works out to in US funds, but it's going to be pretty cheap. And that's the base version of the game, which is called Horizons. And then it's an extra 22 Canadian dollars to get into the Odyssey DLC. But you need the base game for that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Come back for the next video, and if there's any interest in it, maybe I'll look at specific tutorials, including default commands and such like that for the various systems in the game. Have a good one. Bye.